When I was a scout at SBRF Scout Ranch in Knob Lake, Missouri, I often wondered about the camp's predecessor, Camp Irondale in Irondale, Missouri. Scouts had been camping in Irondale as early as 1913, when the area was called Greenia Springs. During World War I, the name Camp Roosevelt was adopted. In 1920, a new camp called Camp Irondale was constructed on land donated to the St. Louis Council by Clarence Howard. The community was very supportive of the camp, with nearly all of the lumber used being donated by a local mill and built by farmers. Though the camp started small, it quickly became popular. In 1945, an Olympic-sized pool was built at Pool Drive and Seminole Drive, which replaced the spring-fed pool. According to rumors, this was the first Olympic-sized pool not built for the Olympics. The massive pool was popular amongst the campers and was in use until the 1970s, even after the camp closed. The camp also featured a chapel called Inspiration Hall, a climbing tower, a water tower, 2 lakes called Lake Apache and Lake Cherokee, several cabins, a post office, a pavilion, a council ring, parade grounds, nature lodge, and more. An interesting factoid is that the camp didn't have a suitable access road for vehicles for many years, which meant the campers arriving by train had to hike from the depot to the camp. The camp remained in operation until 1965 when SBRF Scout Ranch opened. At 5,200 acres, SBRF is much bigger than Irondale, with 4 separate camps inside the ranch: Famous Eagle, Theodore R. Gamble, Sakima, and the Swift Explorer Base. Artifacts from Irondale, such as plaques in the camp's sundial, were scattered across the 4 camps. Other camps in the St. Louis Council, now known as the Greater St. Louis Area Council, received artifacts as well. For example, the stained glass windows from Irondale's chapel were installed in the Seaver Drip Lodge at the Louis D. Beaumont Scout Reservation in Eureka, and Irondale's entrance sign was preserved at the reservation's Emerson Center. After the closure of the camp in 1965, the property was sold to a real estate developer and has been developed into a small subdivision called Camp Irondale Estates. However, the City of Irondale owns about 15 acres of the former camp and is in the process of restoration. Several of the old buildings remain standing today. In 2010, the Ozark Trailblazers District of the Greater St. Louis Area Council worked throughout the spring and summer to restore parts of the camp that Irondale still owns. Recently, the Irondale's chapel was remodeled and rededicated to the city by Cub Scout Pack 697 and Boy Scout Troop 697. For reference, here is a map of Camp Irondale. Each number and letter is a building. And then here is a June 2012 aerial image of the camp, so you can figure out where things were. So this is the camp's old pool. It likely has not been used since the camp closed in 1965. It is badly overgrown. So this is the camp's old climbing tower. I would imagine this was around where the parade grounds used to be, since the pool's right next to here. So a little bit down the street from the pool and climbing tower is the old chapel. It was restored a couple of years ago. They used to have stained glass windows in it, but those are now in the Seaver Drip Lodge at Beaumont Scout Ranch down in Eureka. I think it's called Inspiration Hall now. So this is the old chapel. All the pews are gone now. This is the pulpit of the chapel, where the stained glass used to be. Still has the scout insignia on it. I want to see what these doors are for. Oh, just like a closet or something. So this is the other closet. Looks like this one had electricity in it. Lots of birds in here today. Looks like it may have had lighting on the top too. This is something interesting I noticed. On the ends of the chapel on both sides are the parts of the scout wall. So I'm behind the chapel now. Looks like there's some kind of basement to it. You cannot access this from the top. There must be some kind of doorway down here. Behind the chapel is the basement. This can only be accessed from down here. Well, here's the view from behind the chapel. It's way bigger from this angle than I thought it would be. So there looks to be a half basement for probably storage, and then the chapel part on top. Here's one last look at the chapel. It's beautiful how old it is. It's held up pretty well. Down the street from the chapel is one of the old dormitories. It looks like it's being restored or something is being done to it. Right next to the cabin or dormitory is this sign for Camp Irondale. Makes you wonder how old this thing is. Near the Camp of Irondale is the Hopewell United Church in the town of Hopewell. The cemetery is massive and there's a lot of neat old stones in it. From the woods over there, you can really hear the cicadas. Directly behind the church is this interesting looking stone. It's one that looks like a tree. That's from 1905. Throughout the cemetery I noticed what appears to be Civil War soldier stones. This one's for an FM Forshee, who served in the 31st Infantry. So here is the church. It is a pretty big building. Appears to have at least 2 stories. Only the bottom floor windows are available to see. The top are boarded up. Now, I'm not sure if this is even operational anymore. Given how old the sign looks, I doubt it. I'm thinking it's just kept here for the cemetery and for historical purposes.